In this video, let's talk about cheaply testing your business ideas, because as you go through your process of getting theoretical feedback from potential customers, from friends and family, from experts, the one thing that happens is that it's just too easy for people to say, I like it, and give you these kinds of lukewarm answers like maybe, yes, I like it. Those are actually not that good. It's very easy to mistake them for good because we want our business ideas to be good and we want people to like them. So we are going to round to the positive. If we're not sure, we're going to assume, okay, maybe it's good. But the reality is that if it's like a meh, if it's just, I like it, that's just a nice way of saying I don't really care that much. So you need specifics. You need people to go like, wow, I like it. Or even if they really, really don't like it, often that's even better because at least it evokes a reaction than just like, I like it, which basically is no reaction at all. Anybody can say that. That's an easy thing to say. So sometimes a technique entrepreneurs use if they're talking to potential clients is if the potential clients say, yeah, I like it, the next set of questions would lead to asking, okay, if you like it that much, would you sign up to buy it now ahead of time? I'll give you a discount or something like that. It's not a possible thing to suggest in all cases, but often, and you just basically test how true is it what they're saying. So that's still sort of talking about that theoretical feedback. Now let's talk about starting to test your idea in a practical sense, because it's better to build the business earlier rather than later so you can start testing, start learning, because a cheap failure, even though it's not a good thing, nobody wants it, everybody wants to succeed, but a cheap failure is much better than sitting on the sidelines too long, not failing, but also not starting. And this is a near truism in entrepreneurship. You want to fail cheaply and learn by doing, not sit there and theoretically wonder. So before you dive in, let's go over a few questions that you should ask yourself, just kind of last sanity checks before you dive in and start testing cheaply. The first one is, can you realistically pull it off? I mean, you might have a good business idea, sure, but can you do it? Meaning, does it require some specific skills that you don't have in-house? Does it require resources like a lot of money, man hours, some inventory or tools, right? Like sometimes that just costs money. How are you going to get that? You need to raise. It's not that easy to raise money. Sometimes it's a question of like, are you entering an interesting business space? Like, let's say you wanted to get into the newspaper industry. Well, you better have a really good reason now because that industry is in decline. So think about what ecosystem are you entering? Because on the flip side of the newspaper industry, which is not a popular one today, there is a popular one today. Many people get into like mobile app games. There's so many people who build apps. They want to get into that. It's really fun. It's awesome to have people playing your app, but it's unbelievably difficult to succeed because there's hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of games out there, and most of them fail. So it's a wildly competitive space. So think about the ecosystem, because you'll have to face the challenges of whatever ecosystem you're entering. You just want to make sure that those are reasonable challenges, not ones that are too difficult to overcome. So let's talk about now how to do some real world testing for your ideas cheaply. This is not going to apply to all businesses, but maybe many. If you are selling products, let's say you want to design clothing, t-shirts, or you want to sell physical products maybe on Amazon or on Shopify site, well, you want to start with a small amount of inventory, no bulk buying. The bulk buying will be too much risk too soon. The inventory will be just to test whether you are able to sell. If you are able to sell the small set of inventory, even if it was too costly to acquire this inventory, even if it financially didn't make sense, it's just a test to minimize the bigger risk, because the reality is that most people don't sell. And so they end up being stuck with this inventory. And so you basically just start small, but sell sooner. If you have an online idea, put up a basic website. Try to start promoting the site, see how it goes. Also, if you have to do anything with video, some people wait for a long time to get great video equipment, like amazing camera, lighting, studio, everything. Maybe have their friends film, but you can also figure out how to film from your phone, which has an HD camera, or your webcam of your laptop for free with a reasonably good sound quality on your own, or with equipment that might cost you under $100 that you can acquire within days, and start and begin getting the feedback. So you see, all these, you can take a while, you can go quickly. And also, let's say you have an online idea that's hard to promote. Probably there's some website that makes it easy for you. For example, if you wanted to do your own Shopify store, you can even start selling on Amazon before you set up your Shopify site. If you want to have some agency business, right? Like marketing agency, why don't you just become a freelancer for that first? It's much easier to start that way, and at least you get your feet wet and start learning sooner rather than later, because that's the goal. Because a lot of the assumptions that you have while you're sitting there theoretically dreaming about the business, they go away after you start and you learn the reality of that business. If you want to start a brick and mortar location, maybe you can start more cheaply with a truck or a cart, or doing that business at local fairs or events, because a brick and mortar location is not only very costly, so you'll need to raise money, which is extremely hard to raise, but it often requires permits and licenses that are very time consuming to get, cost extra money, and basically just cause you to never really get into that business because you're always waiting. And one more thing, if you're getting into some kind of a technical business like a mobile app, like cool new website app idea, like a startup, well, you can start learning to code and make what's called an MVP, or hire freelancers but have them make what's called an MVP. MVP stands for minimum viable product. It's a very, very, very basic thing to start with so that it's cheap to create and you can launch and start getting feedback, rather than overbuilding something that's going to be much more costly, and then you don't even know if those features that you had planned are going to be features that your users like, or whether you can even get users for your product, right? So those are the things you want to answer very, very early. And that's why you want to go after the cheap but real world idea testing by launching something quickly.